As the Buddha once wisely shared, you will not be punished for your anger. You will be punished by your anger. That one line holds the key to a life of peace. Because the pain we carry doesn't come from the world. It comes from our reaction to it. The anger, the anxiety, the need to control, those are the real punishments. But what if you could walk through life with a calm heart? No matter what chaos surrounds you. What if insults bounced off you like pebbles on a still lake? What if your peace was so deep, so unshakable, that no storm could touch it? This isn't a fantasy, it's the Buddhist way, the path of inner stillness, the way of detachment and freedom, a life where you stop reacting to every small thing, where you don't need to defend yourself, explain yourself, or fight to prove your worth, because your silence becomes your strength. These aren't just ideas. They are ancient, powerful truths, lived, taught, passed down by the Buddha himself. Here are 7 powerful Buddhist principles that will teach you exactly how to live as if nothing bothers you. 1. Not everything deserves. A reaction. Most things deserve to be ignored. One of the greatest traps in life is the need to respond to everything. Someone says something rude, you feel like you have to defend yourself. Someone provokes you, you feel the urge to strike back. But here's the truth. Most of the chaos around you is nothing more than bait. People who are unhappy with themselves often look for others to pull into their storm. They can't stand your calm. They can't tolerate your silence. And so they poke, they insult, they provoke, just to see if they can break you. But Buddhism teaches something radically powerful. You don't owe the world your energy. You don't need to argue just because someone is loud. You don't need to explain yourself just because someone misunderstands you. You don't need to lower yourself to someone else's chaos just to prove you're right. This is not weakness, it's strategic detachment. It means choosing your peace over your pride. It means realizing that just because something is said doesn't mean it deserves your attention. Most things people say are coming from their own pain, not from truth. And when you react, you don't just engage, you absorb. You take on their anger, you carry their poison, and in doing so, you lose the very peace you worked hard to build. So what's the solution? Learn to pause, to breathe, to observe without reacting, to smile without needing to explain. The most powerful move you can make in a world that constantly tries to get under your skin is not to play the game. Ignore what doesn't serve your growth. Walk away from noise. Let your silence speak louder than any argument ever could. Not because you're weak, not because you're scared, but because you've mastered the art of not letting small minds disturb your deep peace. Some things don't need answers. They need to be outgrown. And often the most enlightened response is none at all. Let me know when you're ready for Principle 2 to be expanded the same way. 2. You suffer more because you expect too much from a broken world. Have you ever felt disappointed because someone didn't treat you the way you would treat them? Or because life didn't unfold the way you thought it should? That feeling of betrayal, frustration, and deep sadness often comes from one's source expectation. And here's the harsh truth Buddhism teaches us. Expectation is the birthplace of suffering. You expect people to always be kind, and when they're selfish, it hurts. You expect loved ones to understand you without needing to explain yourself, and when they don't, it crushes you. You expect life to be fair, but life was never built on fairness. It was built on impermanence and change, and the more you expect the world to match your hopes, the more broken you feel when it doesn't. Buddhism doesn't ask us to stop caring, it asks us to stop attaching, to stop depending on others for our peace. Because when your inner peace relies on people behaving a certain way, you will always be anxious. You will always be let down. Most people are struggling themselves. They are forgetful, distracted, and wounded. Expecting them to show up for you perfectly is like asking a shattered glass to hold water. It's not personal, it's just the nature of things. Instead, drop the expectations. Live with openness, not demands. Give love without needing it back in the same form. Help without needing recognition. Be kind even when the world is not. That's where your power is. Because when you stop expecting, you stop suffering. You become free from disappointment. You stop measuring your worth by how others treat you. And in that freedom, something beautiful happens. Peace returns. Gratitude grows. And your happiness no longer depends on how the world behaves. It depends on how deeply you've let go. So, if you want to suffer less, don't beg the world to be better. Just release the grip of expectation and let life flow the way it was always meant. To imperfect, unpredictable, and absolutely free. Let them think you're cold. It's better than being emotionally weak. At some point, you have to choose. Protect your peace or please everyone. And if you decide to protect your peace, people will not like it. They'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, selfish, or emotionally unavailable. But here's what Buddhism teaches. You are not responsible for how others label your peace. You are only responsible for not sacrificing it. Many people are addicted to emotional drama. They expect you to be available at all times, to explain yourself, to absorb their chaos. And when you don't, when you set boundaries, walk away from disrespect, and stay silent instead of arguing, they feel threatened. Not because you've harmed them, but because you've refused to let them control your emotional state. You don't have to respond to every message. You don't have to show up for people who never show up for you. You don't have to make yourself small just to make others comfortable. Buddhism teaches non-attachment, not just from material things, but from the illusion that you must always be nice to be spiritual. Kindness is beautiful, but when it comes at the cost of your inner well-being, it becomes self-destruction. It's better to be seen as cold than to constantly bleed for people who wouldn't even offer you a bandage. It's better to be misunderstood than to drain yourself trying to be everything for everyone. Being emotionally strong doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you don't let your feelings make you a slave to other people's expectations. There will always be people who guilt-trip you for being quiet, for not reacting, for creating space. But understand this. Your detachment is not a lack of love. It's the presence of self-respect. It's the realization that your energy is sacred and not everyone deserves access to it. So let them talk. Let them assume. Let them think you're heartless if they must. Because when you no longer feel the need to prove your softness to the wrong people, that's when you finally reclaim your peace. And in that stillness, you'll discover something rare. Power without noise, strength without chaos, love without weakness. For they only control you if you still care. Most people don't realize how easily they give away their power. You hand it over every time someone's words ruin your mood, every time a comment sticks in your chest like a thorn, every time someone ghosts you, criticizes you, or disrespects you, and it consumes your mind all day. Whether you admit it or not, if someone can disturb your peace with their presenza, their absence, they control you. Not physically, but emotionally. And Buddhism teaches us that the only real prison is the one you carry inside. It's not what they did. It's the fact that you still care, that you're still holding on. You replay their words. You analyze the silence. You twist yourself into knots, wondering, why did they treat me this way? But here's the truth. Not everyone is meant to understand you. Not everyone is meant to respect you. And not everyone is meant to stay. The more you cling to the illusion that they should, the more you suffer. Because now, your peace depends on their approval. Your joy depends on their behavior. And that's emotional slavery. Buddhism doesn't ask you to hate people. It asks you to free yourself from the need for them to behave a certain way in order for you to be okay. It asks you to cut the invisible strings of attachment that tie your happiness to other people's actions. Why? Because the moment someone can predict your reaction, they control you. If they know saying one thing will make you explode, they've already won. If they know ignoring you will send you into a spiral of overthinking, they don't need to do anything else. You become predictable, vulnerable, weak. True spiritual power lies in being unreachable by nonsense, not because you're numb, but because you've trained your mind to rise above it. That's what real detachment is. Not becoming cold, but becoming untouchable. You can still love people and not let their chaos live rent-free in your mind. You can still be kind and not tolerate disrespect. You can still feel everything, but choose what deserves a response. The moment you stop needing them to explain, to apologize, to validate you, that's when you take your power back. You stop hoping for closure. You stop waiting for things to make sense. You accept that some people will never understand what they did. And even if they did, it still wouldn't be enough. Because healing was never going to come from them. It was always going to come from you. So ask yourself honestly, who still controls your emotions without even being in the room? Who do you think about when you should be at peace? That's where your work is. That's where your energy is leaking. And that's what you must reclaim. Because peace isn't found in fixing other sites, found in disconnecting your well-being from their behavior. When you realize you don't need anyone to change in order to feel good, you become free. And when you become free, people lose their power over you. They might still talk, still try to hurt you, still try to trigger a reaction, but it won't land anymore, because you've built something stronger inside. A mind that doesn't flinch, a heart that doesn't beg, a soul that doesn't chase. So let them misunderstand you, let them walk away, let them judge your silence as weakness, because the truth is, they only control you if you care too much about being understood, accepted, or praised by people who were never meant to walk your path. Detach, not to punish them, but to protect yourself. Walk away, not to make a statement, but to maintain your peace. Rise above, not to prove anything, but because staying low is no longer worth your spirit. And when you finally master the ability to stay calm in the face of disrespect, to stay grounded when someone tries to shake you, to stay loving without being manipulated, you become untouchable. Not by being emotionless, but by being wise enough to know the more they control your reaction, the less you've mastered yourself. Let it go, not for them, for you. 5. Peace is found when you learn to shut up. It sounds harsh, doesn't it? But sometimes, the most compassionate advice is the most direct. Most people destroy their peace, not because of what happens to them, but because they won't stop talking about it, overthinking, over-explaining, retelling the story again and again. They drown in their own words. Buddhism teaches us that silence is not just the absence of noise. It is a spiritual discipline, a weapon, a sanctuary. Every time something disturbs you, what's the first thing your mind tells you to do? Speak, explain, prove, defend, vent, react. But here's the trap. The more you speak about what's hurting you, the more power you give it. You rehearse the pain, you give it oxygen, and before you know it, a small wound becomes a bleeding identity. The story becomes who you are. When the Buddha spoke of right speech, he wasn't just teaching morality, he was teaching mastery. He was saying, use your words with intention. Don't waste your breath on noise. And most of what we say in moments of pain is noise. It doesn't solve anything, it doesn't heal anything, it just feeds the fire. You're angry? Breathe. You're misunderstood? Observe. You're triggered? Say nothing. Why? Because that silence, that pause is where your power lives. When you don't immediately react, you give your mind a chance to calm down. You give your wisdom space to rise. You don't spill emotion everywhere and regret it later. You don't give others a blueprint to control you. The truth is, most people talk themselves deeper into the suffering. They go from event to emotion to reaction in seconds. Someone says something rude, and instead of letting it go, you repeat it to 5 people. You post about it. You analyze every word. And suddenly, that one moment lives in your head rent-free for days. Why? Because you didn't choose silence. You chose to feed it. Now, silence isn't suppression. It's not bottling things up and pretending you're fine. That's not peace. That's denial. Buddhist silence is aware silence. It's when you feel the emotion fully, but don't let it control your next move. You feel the heat rising in your chest. You feel the ego screaming to fight back. But you remain still, not because you're weak, but because you've trained your mind to act, not react. And something beautiful happens in that stillness. Clarity arises. What felt like an emergency no longer matters. What felt like betrayal now looks like a lesson. What felt like personal disrespect now reveals itself as someone else's inner conflict. Silence gives you perspective, and with perspective comes peace. But here's the challenge, as silence is hard, because the ego wants attention. It wants justice. It wants to prove. And every time you shut your mouth, your ego panics. It says, say something or you'll look weak. But that's the trap. Reacting isn't strength, it's programming. Anyone can lash out. Anyone can post a passive-aggressive status. But to sit in the fire of your own emotion without letting it burn others, that's real mastery. And that mastery protects you, because when you speak carelessly, you say things you can't unsay. You damage relationships. You create tension. You reveal your weak spots. But when you hold your silence, you become unreadable. You become untouchable. People try to provoke you and get nothing. They try to argue with you, and your silence becomes the wall they can't climb. There's a reason Buddhist monks practice noble silence for days, weeks, even months. Because in silence, the truth reveals itself. In silence, you hear your real thoughts. You uncover your real emotions. And you stop performing for the world and start witnessing yourself. So the next time you feel the urge to speak out of pain, sit, breathe, watch. Ask yourself, is what I'm about to say coming from my ego or my awareness? If it's ego, stay quiet. If it's awareness, it will speak through you with kindness, strength, and clarity. And if you're still unsure, choose silence anyway. You'll never regret the words you didn't say in anger, but you'll always regret the ones you did. In the modern world, silence is rare. Everyone is yelling. Everyone is performing. Everyone is trying to be heard. But the ones who walk in peace, they speak less. They listen more. They watch carefully. They move slowly. And when they do speak, their words carry weight because they come from stillness, not from reaction. Train yourself to be that kind of person. The one who doesn't flinch. The one who doesn't need to explain. The one who can hold a storm inside and still walk in peace outside. Because in a world addicted to noise, silence isn't weakness. It's power. It's protection. And it's proof that you've grown beyond the need to be loud, just to feel strong. So learn to shut up, not to suppress your truth, but to protect your power. Because peace isn't found in saying the most. It's found in needing to say nothing at all. You cannot heal in the same environment that keeps hurting you. It's one of the most ignored truths in life. But it's also one of the most important. You cannot heal in the same place that keeps breaking you. Yet many people try. They stay in toxic relationships, hoping love will fix it. They remain in negative circles, hoping their kindness will change others. They hold on to dead environments because they're too afraid to walk away from the familiar. But Buddhism teaches something clear. powerful and undeniable. If the environment poisons your peace, it must be left behind. The lotus flower, one of the most powerful symbols in Buddhism, grows in the mud. But here's what most people don't understand it. It grows above the mud. It doesn't stay submerged. It doesn't stay trapped. It rises, because even something pure must separate from what is unclean to fully bloom. The same applies to your mind, your energy, your healing. Some people think detachment means enduring endless pain silently. But that's not strength, that's suffering. That's a misunderstanding of spiritual endurance. Buddhism does not teach us to become doormats. It teaches us to recognize when something no longer serves our growth, and to let it go without hate, without anger, without drama, but with complete clarity. If someone constantly disrespects you, makes you doubt yourself, or drains your energy every time they're near you, don't owe them endless patience. You don't owe them your destruction. You owe yourself freedom. And sometimes that freedom looks like distance. Sometimes the highest form of healing is found in walking away. Staying in the same place and expecting healing is like trying to recover from smoke inhalation while sitting in a burning house. No matter how calm your breathing becomes, no matter how much you meditate, journal, or pray, the fire will still eat at you if you don't remove yourself from the source. Yes, change is uncomfortable. Walking away hurts. Letting go of familiar pain feels like tearing a part of yourself out. But ask yourself this: is this pain making me stronger, or is it just keeping me stuck? Because there is a kind of suffering that teaches you, and there is a kind that traps you. You must learn the difference. People often fear solitude, thinking it's loneliness. But Buddhism teaches us that solitude is sacred. When you step away from toxic environments, be it a person, a home, a job, or even a mental pattern, you begin to hear yourself again. Your breath returns to normal. Your shoulders relax. Your thoughts become lighter. That's not loneliness. That's healing finally taking its first breath. There's a certain peace that you'll never find until you remove yourself from the wrong energy. And here's something powerful. You don't need their permission to leave. You don't need them to understand why you've gone silent. You don't need them to see your worth before you decide to protect it. You are allowed to walk away from anything that constantly wounds your spirit. In Buddhism, there is a concept called upaya, or skillful means. It means that wisdom is not just knowing the truth, it's knowing how to apply it. And sometimes the most skillful act of compassion is toward yourself. To realize, I've tried, I've been patient, I've given love, and now I must give that same love to myself by stepping away. You don't need to make a loud exit. You don't need to prove how much you've been hurt. Quietly close the door and let peace follow you out. Not because you're bitter, but because your soul is no longer available for environments that mistake your kindness for weakness. Healing needs space. It needs silence. It needs separation from what created the wound in the first place. Yes, you can forgive them. Yes, you can send love from a distance, but you don't have to keep standing in the fire just to prove you're strong. The strongest people are not the ones who endure the most pain there, the ones who know when enough is enough. Stop thinking healing is just about meditation, crystals, or breathing techniques. Healing is also about boundaries, exits, and the courage to leave when your spirit whispers, "This is not where I belong." So look at your life. Really look. What are you tolerating that's quietly killing your light? What are you holding on to that keeps reopening your wounds? What spaces do you keep revisiting, hoping they'll feel different but never do? It's time to stop shrinking to fit where you've outgrown. It's time to stop watering dead plants. It's time to stop breaking yourself to fix what was never whole. Your peace is not found in fighting battles you were never meant to be in. It's found in the moment you realize, I can leave, I can let go, I can start again. And when you do, you'll see what healing really feels like, not as a struggle, but as a return. A return to your breath, your clarity, your power, your peace. You cannot heal in the same environment that keeps hurting you. So don't stay. Rise. Here's a hard truth. Most people aren't ready to face. If others know exactly how to trigger you, you are still controlled by them. If someone can raise their voice, roll their eyes, give you the silent treatment, or say one sharp word and instantly ruin your mood, hijack your peace, or make you beg for clarity, then you are not strong. You are not free. You are just reacting. And that means you are still trapped inside a prison built by your emotions. Buddhism teaches us that true strength does not come from how loudly you defend yourself. It comes from how deeply anchored you are in your center, so anchored that the storms of others can no longer reach your core. When you live in constant reaction mode, you're not really alive. You're just on autopilot. You become a puppet with strings attached to every insult, every compliment, every shift in someone else's behavior. And every time they pull one of those strings, you dance. That's not peace. That's not power. That's slavery. It doesn't matter how successful, spiritual, or disciplined you appear to be. If you are predictable in your reactions, you are weak in your control. Because people who seek to manipulate you are always studying you. They learn your patterns. They know exactly which buttons to push. And the moment they sense that saying something will make you snap, or that acting distant will make you chase, they do it. They don't see you as strong anymore. They see you as someone easy to control. That's why Buddhism puts a lot of focus on mindfulness, because mindfulness isn't just about staying calm. It's about staying aware of yourself in every moment, especially when emotions rise. Can you feel anger without losing control? Can you notice sadness without becoming it? Can you see your ego reacting and still choose silence instead of revenge? That's the real work. That's the real path. When you reach a place where no one can figure you out, where they don't know what can shake you, silence you, or break you, that's when you become powerful. Not because you're hard to read, but because you've stopped needing to react just to feel noticed or protected. You no longer give away your peace like it's candy to anyone who brings an opinion. That doesn't mean you feel nothing. It's actually the opposite. You feel everything, but you no longer serve every emotion like it rules you. You've trained your mind to observe first, respond later, and many times not respond at all. It's a quiet kind of strength that scares people because they can't drag you into fights anymore. They can't control you with silent, passive-aggressive tactics anymore. They can't make you feel guilty enough to explain every move you make. You become unreadable, calm, steady, and that frustrates those who used to feed on your reactions. And this is where your peace begins to shine. Because now, instead of reacting to everything around you, you start creating from within. You choose your energy. You choose your mood. You choose how to spend your time. You become the creator, not the puppet. There's a story in Buddhist teachings about a monk who was insulted by a soldier. The soldier cursed him, spat at him, and shouted every cruel word he could think of. But the monk stayed calm, steady, and silent. After some time, the soldier shouted, "How can you just stand there without saying anything? Don't you care about what I'm saying?" The monk calmly replied, "If someone gives you a gift and you don't accept it, who does it belong to?" The soldier answered, "To the one who offered it." The monk smiled. "Exactly. I do not accept your gift. That is real power. That is real mastery. Not the power to control others, but the strength to not be controlled by them. Look at your life. Who still has control over your emotions? Whose words still burn you inside? Whose silence still makes you question your value? This isn't about them. It's about you. It's about your unhealed wounds. And until you do the inner work, People will always be able to reach in and press your pain like a button. So train yourself, not to turn cold, but to stay calm beyond what anyone can predict. Learn to pause before reacting, to respond with awareness, not with impulse. Practice watching your emotions like clouds drifting across the sky. Feel them, notice them, but don't become them. Because the moment no one can guess your next move, you become truly free. You become powerful in the best way. Not because you're harsh, but because you're steady. You don't flinch when someone provokes you. You don't fall apart when someone ignores you. You don't chase, you don't beg, and you don't explain yourself too much. You simply breathe, stay grounded, and let them wonder what you're thinking, how you stay so calm, why you didn't react. And in that silence, you win. In that self-control, you grow. In that stillness, you return to your center. You're still vulnerable if people can guess your reactions, so become unreadable, unreachable, untouchable, not for revenge, but for peace. Not to impress anyone, but to protect your mind. Because when you stop moving at someone else's command, you finally move in rhythm with your own soul. You came here searching for strength, for a way to rise above the noise, the hurt, the chaos that seems to follow you everywhere. And now you've seen the truth. It was never about controlling the world. It was always about mastering yourself. Because no matter how calm the ocean seems, storms will still come. And no matter how kind you are, some people will still misunderstand you. No matter how spiritual you become, life will still test you in ways that feel deeply personal. But the purpose of this Buddhist path isn't to avoid challenges. It's to train your mind so deeply that nothing outside you can control what's inside you. These 7 principles aren't just ideas. They're your weapons, your shields, your tools for freedom. Let go of what doesn't deserve your energy. Release expectations that disturb your peace. Be okay with being misunderstood. Take back the power you once gave away. Stay quiet when silence protects your soul. Walk away from what keeps hurting you and rise so steadily that no one can see you fall. Because the person who seems untouched by everything isn't without feelings. They are free. Free from the need to please, free from reacting to everything, free from playing the world's games. And in that kind of freedom you'll find something priceless, peace that depends on nothing and no one, not applause, not revenge, not even being understood, just peace for peace's sake. So carry this with you. The one who reacts loses, but the one who observes, breathes, lets go, and keeps walking wins in silence. Be that person, and no matter what the world throws at you, you will remain untouched. You.